Welcome to the Conversations That Matter podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, for a Trail Talk edition. Might be a little bumpy. I'm walking on a snowmobile path here. It was a lot worse earlier. I was like in waist deep in some of these drifts. But it's our first warm day, one of our first warm days here in New York, and everyone's stir crazy, so we're getting out. It's 40 degrees and it's time. It's time to anticipate spring. Oh, here we go. Here's the drift right here. So I thought it was a good time to do a trail talk, though, so you can see what it looks like here in the mountains in late winter. It's nice. It's peaceful, although I do hear a few snowmobiles out there because it's a holiday. And I thought we'd talk about America, right? One of our favorite topics here on the Conversations That Matter podcast. We'll talk about some encouraging news, I think. I see some real leadership coming from the administration, and I want to highlight it. I watched Marco Rubio's speech in Munich, our Secretary of State, and there's a few things I might have said differently, but overall, what a contrast. What a good speech. And I also saw an ad that was going around social media from Rupert Lowe, I think is his name. And it's called Restore Britain. At least the organization is. The ad is for Restore Britain. And he had a similar, it's more specified to Great Britain, but he had a similar message to Marco Rubio. And both of them were clarion calls to remember who we are. Marco Rubio's speech was much broader because he's talking about European civilization in general. But Rupert Lowe's talk was very specifically focused on Anglo identity. And both of them mentioned Christianity in positive terms. So I want to focus on 4 or 5 things that I pulled out of their speeches. The first is that the root of our problems are mostly a failure to live up to noble codes from our heritage. They're very virtue-focused.
Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love. On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain.
With a Europe that is proud of its heritage and of its history. With a Europe that has the spirit of creation and liberty that sent ships out into uncharted seas and birthed our civilization. With a Europe that has the means to defend itself and the will to survive. We should be proud of what we achieved together in the last century.
Whatever foreign threats that have come upon us are, in part at least, the result of failing to remember our own uniqueness. The crisis in front of us, and this is immigration, this is foreign policy, this comes down to even just basic moral issues to some extent, is a attitude that gets rid of tradition and with it religion, Christianity, that doesn't respect God, that doesn't respect transcendence. But at the same time, it keeps this attitude that we are still the civilized world, and we still have this responsibility to be this light that civilizes the rest of the world with our noble egalitarian principles or something. And as a result, we've just imported the third world. We've imported people who do not share the same enthusiasm for our civilization, who undermine it when they come in large numbers like this and don't assimilate. We're sort of living on our own inertia, but we're not even telling them the root of our own success and the good, true, positive things because we don't remember it ourselves. And I think it's sort of a reverse colonialism, to be honest with you. And so we have brought barbarism into our own shores, and because we have given up on civilization. Another point I think that was made in both these videos is that we do need to draw a line somewhere. And so both Marco Rubio and Rupert Lowe draw lines. And this is kind of a controversial thing to do. There's sort of a big incentive not to do that, not to draw lines, not to say that anyone's, not included in our arrangement, but you have to at some point, right? You have to draw lines, because if you don't know who's in or who's out, then you have no way of knowing to whom you have obligations. Who are your obligations toward? You can't protect your country anymore. You don't even know who your country is.
The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported. The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive.
But we must also gain control of our national borders. Controlling who and how many people enter our countries, this is not an expression of xenophobia. It is not hate. It is a fundamental act of national sovereignty.
Without clear boundaries, obligations become infinite. Protection becomes impossible, and the nation itself basically dissolves. The third thing is that Christianity is a key component of the nation's core identity. And this means there is a Protestant core, and even non-Christians must acknowledge and honor that particular core. Now, for Marco Rubio, he's talking more broadly, but there's an element of Christendom for Europe.
That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law.
We are part of one civilization, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share, forged by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and the sacrifices our forefathers made together.
And this isn't an optional nostalgia. It is the moral foundation of the rule of law. Duty, forgiveness, the high trust society we enjoy, even those outside the faith must look at this as the bedrock. And without it, we don't really have a civilization. And the fourth thing is that there has to be a shared basis for cooperation that requires experience together and agreement toward shared goals. It's not just a trade alliance. It's not just about the ledger and the pocketbook and the GDP. We have a shared commitment to a shared civilization with shared values. And these values aren't an inch deep. These are rooted in years of life together. They are sourced from transcendent sources. And the last thing that I think I would say is, Rupert Lowe points this out, that it's really the rural places, it's the farm, where you really see this spirit of the nation, of understanding what the country is, still intact. The cities don't have this as much anymore, but the rural regions do. And a lot of the characteristics that make even America what it is also are in the rural regions. And we have to go back to those places for inspiration to remember who we are, because they haven't given into this cosmopolitan, egalitarian, and revolutionary, secular kind of mindset. And so the memory lives on in these rural places, and everyday people in the heartland know what it is to value stewardship, to have pride in your people. And if we have the resolve, we can reclaim those things. Rubio and Lowe, I think, show the way to remember, to define, to honor, to unite, and to act. And the choice is really ours at the end of the day. Are we going to restore our civilization and restore our national character, or do we let those things be lost forever? I'm really glad that there are some national leaders rising up who are at least talking about this, and there is a strong place for Christianity in it. I'd like to see that ramped up even more, because it's not just Christianity as a national character. We quite literally need to call out to God. That is the only way forward, I'm convinced. It's not just a commitment to the forms of Christianity. We need the power of God and the trust in God and a submission to God and commitment to God if we are going to be who we once were, where there used to be, very commonly, even statesmen and civic leaders would call for days of national prayer and humiliation and those kinds of things. So step in the right direction, guys. And seeing the natural beauty just even all around me in our country makes me remember who created it and who ultimately we're responsible to. So hopefully as it warms up, you can get out too and enjoy the world around you. God bless.